You are listening to the Level Up Your Gaming Podcast, episode 41, Player Backgrounds and Player Motivations. Today we talk about player backgrounds and motivations. We discuss why player backgrounds are important for player motivation. We discuss how to utilize your player background in your story. We also cover how to use player motivations to create moments later in your game. If you'd like to participate in the discussion or leave us feedback, you can contact us at levelupyourgamingpodcast@gmail.com or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/levelupyourgaming. If you like the content and want to hear more of the show, subscribing will ensure you don't miss an episode. New episodes come out almost every Wednesday. Also, please review, tell a friend about the podcast, or share with your gaming group. Now sit back and enjoy the episode. Welcome to the Level Up Your Gaming Podcast. My name is Aaron, and joining me in person, Batman had a backstory, and so does he, Jared.
I loved that one. I love Batman. I know.
I know you love Batman.
Hey, everyone.
How you doing today, Jared?
Not bad. Yourself?
I'm doing good. Weather's starting to shift.
Yes.
Autumn air is starting
Fall.
to come in. This is your time of year. You're a Northman, so.
I am a Northman with my great beard. This is Jared's winter game. Or it used to be. Then he got married.
Then you got married.
Now
This is just Jared.
Now this is just Jared, but it's still winter game because I'm like, at my wife, I'm like, how you doing? Look at this fantastic beard during the cold winter. This giant barbarian Viking will keep you warm.
Oh, my.
Did I tell you I had the weirdest dream last night?
No.
So for our listeners, just to give you a better view of me, I have a bald head. I shave it because it is balding. So I had a dream last night. Now, mind you, big Star Trek fan. I think our listeners know that. I was fighting Borg in a hotel with a phaser rifle, and I'm just going all tack, knocking down Borg. The one thing when I woke up that like affected me the most from this dream is that of just being like, that was a fucking awesome dream. I had hair in the dream, and I was like, oh. That dream I had hair. It was good. It was good hair too. Like it was like when I used to have hair. You caught yourself
in the mirror and you just pulled
like
back
it was
your locks.
thick and like I had shaped it and shit, and it was a good head of hair, and I don't have that anymore.
Well, that's unfortunate. Batman had hair.
Batman had hair. Yes, he did. Jerk. Thanks for reminding me.
No problem. And that's going to segue us into our topic today, which is player backgrounds and motivations.
Player backgrounds. Okay.
I have strong opinions on this.
I have very strong opinions on this. Oh God, I can't believe this is gonna be less of a podcast and more of a confession for me.
Well, Jared, we'll confess in front of all of our listeners.
We're going to get a ton of angry tweets. Do we have a tweet? Do we have a Twitter?
We don't have a Twitter.
We have a Facebook, though.
We have a Facebook, and you can send us angry emails if you
can send us angry emails.
Make sure to direct them towards the person who offended you the most during this episode.
During this podcast, during this confession. I've been handed many character backgrounds in my time. I think I have read 3. The rest I have just never opened, never read. If it is larger than a paragraph, it's not getting read. I'm sorry.
This is the extent of the player background I want to know. This is my character. This is what makes him interesting. And that's it. And I just want you to tell me that. I don't care.
A verbal, like, I will sit down and I will okay, no, that was really cool.
Sometimes I like to explain why did I choose. So we play White Wolf primarily.
Yeah.
Okay. And in White Wolf, you have a sets of skills. So you're placing dots on a sheet instead of assigning pluses and minuses based on your class and your
it's how many dice you roll
and your background in D&D. So I like to put in my dots, and they relate to how skillful you are and whatever you're doing.
There's a modifier. Aaron, I just want to inform our listeners. Aaron is going to say, like, if you have a certain amount of dots, I want to know why. Because the funny thing is, Aaron, I don't think has any characters with skills over 3. Like, he doesn't not believe in going to 4 or 5.
Back when we first started playing, yeah, so it's a 5-point scale. Back when we first, 2 is the average, by the way, for our listeners.
Yeah,
so
2 is average. And Aaron's like, okay, Jared, I have a skill that's at 3. I'm like, calm down now. Calm down.
Okay. Back when we first started playing, like, there were characters I had that had 4 and 5 dots and things.
Oh, yeah.
Which are like, you're talking Olympian or world renowned when you get to 5 dots.
Yep.
Okay, in terms of like the strength and things like that. So now I'm trying to make my characters really fit who the character is and what they're good at. And so when I get to a 4 and something, I'm like, there better be a good reason why I'm at a 4.
Why am I? You make characters who are so human, and I love it. Like, I love it. Like, your character's always like 2 dots. Like, I got a dot here, but you almost punish yourself to the point of sadism. Like, holy crap, this character barely knows how to hold a gun.
Well, this is the opposite of our friend Ken. And Ken, I love you, but if you listen to the podcast, I don't think you do. But
no.
Ken will be like 5 dots. This would be effectively
you are one of the world's
best. I mean, this is like mid.
Well, like you are a renowned world opinion on it. For example, like one of our friends is his girlfriend. You know, she speaks to the UN. She goes and gives talks to the UN. When you're at 5, the UN are like, hey, would you mind coming down and speaking on this? Or, you know, a university might be like, hey, would you mind coming down and do a lecture? If you're a doctor, if it's in medicine, hey, would you mind actually coming down and performing this surgery at our hospital? So it's a learning hospital, so people could learn. If it's in firearms, you are one of those people who literally get sponsored by Colt to go to shooting competitions. You are one of those people that have, now there's a lot of them that have their own YouTube channel now, and they just show amazing stuff. But you are someone that Colt reaches out to when they're developing a new weapon system, and they're like, hey, can you come down and shoot this and tell us your thoughts? And the engineers will go back to the board based on your feedback. I mean, like, yes, I will shoot your new gun.
Again, this is the thing. So, I mean, yeah, the dots are representational in White Wolf system. But this is the thing, is that Ken would always have 4 and 5 dots. Okay, which give you the maximum dice pool in the game. Okay, he did it for the purpose of having a large dice pool, not for enriching his character. No. You could never explain why he had 5 dots, but damn it, he did.
Yeah, that was a thing.
Yes, but and then also I'm sorry, Ken. Again, I'm going to have to go to your character backgrounds because Ken would also like to write large exposition on his character backgrounds. Okay, and I'm going to give anybody who is listening a tip. If you want to write large exposition on your character background, okay, it is primarily for you.
Yes, I was about to say the same thing.
Okay, it
is for you to play your character better.
It is for you to understand the motivations of your character. And you should be able to explain to the GM, okay, after you kind of go through the background, why your character is driven towards revenge, or why your character is driven towards a curious mind in the UFO and the extraterrestrials, okay?
Yes.
Why your character wants to become the king, okay? Because of the stuff in my background. You should be able to give me the Cliff's Notes of that, okay? But for you, that 22-page document that you wrote, that is for you.
That is for you.
I am not going to read it. I don't care about it. I'm sorry. It doesn't mean anything to me. Okay? If there are cool, clever people in your history, I might use them.
Give me a bullet point.
Give me the bullet points. Tell me about who's important in your life, who shaped your life, and why.
Hey, my character has a sister that you can kidnap. Like my current character. I told you and Brian in a bullet point. This character has 5 siblings.
I totally forgot about that.
Use any of them. Yeah, you totally forgot about it. But you know what? If you ever came back to me and were like, Jared, like, let's say you want to write about a kidnapping where my character gets personally affected. Jared, does your character have any siblings? Yeah, she has 5. She has 5 siblings. There, boom. I know it because I want to play my character better. I don't need my storyteller to know that. Now, I will totally, it's just, I agree. Just no offense. When I go to pick something that I'm going to read, I pick a book that I want to read because I want to read it. Like right now, I'm reading a Stephen King novel. Yes. Why? Because I want to get scared at night.
It doesn't give you enough information about the person or the background to understand what they're doing. Again, because if you write 22 pages, what happens is the GM looks at it and goes like, "This is just word vomit." Okay.
Well, it could be very well written word vomit.
I mean, it could be. I'm not saying that it's not well written, but it's effectively you throwing things up. Tell me what in this backstory is important to you that you want me to know. Okay. Example.
Precisely.
Example.
Fire away.
Okay. In our last run with the investigators, okay, my character had a very intricate scene where he encountered potentially a werewolf. Okay.
It was awesome.
And it marked me for prey. Okay. For a later date.
So I could use it for any time that I wanted.
That was actually all I cared about telling Jared. That was the only thing in my backstory that I cared about telling Jared.
Yeah. I mean, like, and it was super useful. I was planning a very great story for that. Unfortunately, that game came to a terrible conclusion. But moving on, no, the character background, as Aaron just said, should be for your players. Now, the thing is why I guess we're confessing a little bit is because I hope there are plenty of storytellers out there who finally went, oh my God, they do the same thing. Yes, most GMs, because think about it, as GM, I've got a story to write. I've got conflict to plan out. I've got NPCs to prepare and organize. I've got all of these things, okay? Additionally, I might have a job. Additionally, I might have a wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever. Additionally, I might have a family thing that I have to attend.
There's so many things in your life.
Already have so much shit on their plate. And if they're listening to our podcast, they're adding more shit onto their plate because they're like, you know what? I need better music. And now they're researching like me. They're putting on their headphones and trying to find scarier or better music and adding more stuff to it. There is so much on their plate already. You are essentially saying every time that I've received a background, it's like, write me a story where I get to do this. And it's because I've tried to read. Now, I shouldn't say, I said at the beginning, I think I've read 3. I think I've completed 3. I have started multiple, and I was just like by paragraph form, like, oh my God, he's telling me about his character in the 1760s. Unless there's a NPC that I'm going to bring back from the 1760s to fucking murk you, I don't care that you were a vice president in the East India Company. Don't care.
Exactly. And again, I'm going to say this again. Ken, I'm sorry, but I'm going to pick on you a little bit for this. You're okay? Yes, I'm going to pick on Ken.
All right, there you go.
Okay.
Here you are, listeners. Listeners, you're about to witness the start of a fight.
If there is a fight, I will report on it later.
I don't think he listens, though.
Yes, but if you are listening, I'm sorry. Okay, but these are fatal flaws in what you do with your background. You do a lot of these fatal flaws, but one of them is that you tell exposition as though I'm reading a book about your past. Okay, I do not care about the 3 pages about how you met your ex-lover. I don't.
You don't find that interesting?
No, because I don't. Because you could just say I had an ex-lover. Her name was blah blah blah.
Now dead, killed by X person.
Yes, that's
plot line.
Cliff's notes, more important than actually writing this 22-page exposition. And I will talk to you about a situation in one of our games when he was putting together a character for a game that never came to fruition. This was your Madame Fontaine game.
Madame Fontaine, yes.
Okay, so he wrote a background for this character to come into Madame Fontaine because we were going to make characters for it. Again, game never came to fruition.
It didn't because our groups because I was genuinely interested in telling that story, but the group composition,
the group size came down, and we have a whole podcast coming up on group composition.
Yeah, and I'll talk about it then.
But Ken made a character. Ken made a background for that character. Ken was telling me about the background for that character. He got to the end of the background for the character, and I said, so what's your character's purpose for existing now? He couldn't answer that question.
That's the other thing about background. Sometimes they shoehorn you into a certain thing. Like your background has made a character one-dimensional about revenge. And
that was the only thing I could derive from it, which was his character must be hell-bent on revenge.
Hellbent.
Hellbent.
I remember this background. I think I got through maybe a paragraph. Not even.
I don't know if he ever gave it to you, but
he did.
His character at the end of it would have had to be hell-bent on revenge because his character would have had to be his character was effectively scorned by his lover, who betrayed him. Okay.
I clearly did not read this.
Yeah, it betrayed him at the end and joined the enemy.
I thought she was killed by the enemy.
No, I believe she sold him down the river in the background.
Bitch.
Okay, and I'm like, so what's your plan here? Because your character apparently loves her still. So I'm like, is your character trying to redeem her from the bad guys, or is he going to go in there and kill every motherfucker?
I mean,
because those are the only two options I see.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Is that character background horned him?
Horned.
Yeah, I know, but like what came out of my mouth was shoe hoard. What the hell is a shoe whore?
So yeah, sorry, I'm ranting on this because
this is therapy for you. No, I'm kidding.
This is the podcast sort of is. It's fun to do. It's something I do for fun
it's not
with
therapy,
you.
though.
But it's not therapy. No, I'm telling you this right now is because you probably know somebody who does this in your group.
Yes.
Okay. Or you probably have gamed with somebody who does this in a group. Okay. Just remember that less is more in character backgrounds, because your goal here is to learn, your character is going to act in a certain way that you act. If you're a GM, listen to the KYP episode. Okay. If you're a player, listen to the KYP episode. Understand that most of what your character is going to do is going to be driven because you are a player and you're playing yourself effectively with the mask on, and you have some motivations that you should be able to understand from your character and derive those from your character.
Absolutely. And I mean the character background, I have started randomly generating it for I think it was actually just this most recent one. And it's funny because this most recent one is probably getting up there in one of my most fun characters to play. But I randomly rolled a backstory because I wanted, I forget what I was reading, but it was like, you don't get to choose your childhood. And it's like, it's so freaking true. I didn't get to choose mine. Mm-hmm. I certainly would not have selected my childhood. But you know, it's, you don't get to pick that, and it forms the person who you are. And I was really going for not playing me, because when Jared plays me, and I've played me in so many games where, you know, I slip in the tactical, I slip in the knowing police stuff, knowing military stuff. I slip in all of these things, and I lose sight of playing a character that I was really interested in. It's very bad. It's very bad that I do that. And I'm trying to become a better player because I've spent so many years as GM that I'm very rusty at it, but this character I'm very happy with. But the backstory I used as exactly as Aaron said, I used it to amplify the character. I used it for me because I wanted to know who I was playing, what character I was taking on, what mask. The other objective of player background is to provide, many people think that when they create a background that I'm providing my storyteller with additional stories that they can tell. And what they do is they provide them very specific stories. And it's actually very upsetting as a creative, to be told, like, here's my backstory. You know, we'll use Ken's story as an example. I have an ex-girlfriend. This is her name. This is the group that she betrayed me to. This is the coming back to kill me. This is the city it existed in. So you've given me the setting, the NPCs, and I'm supposed to tell your story.
Leave that open-ended.
Exactly. Whereas your story was a lot more open. There was a possible encounter with a werewolf.
This was the event that I remember. It is the reason why I have these two phobias.
And the thing was, you couldn't even tell me, and it was great when you told me the story, The person couldn't even confirm if it was a werewolf. It was just a tall wolf-like being. I could make that into a Wendigo, the Native American Wendigo.
I was also a child. It could have just been a wolf.
Could have been a wolf. Could have been a very big wolf. When creating a story background, so not only do you want to develop it for you, not only do you want to keep it short, succinct, and bullets, but you also want to make sure that if in those bullets that you are creating possibility for your storyteller, not telling them what story you want them to tell. Because it gets frustrating to me because, okay, I'm just going to take an off moment. Off mic, but it's not off mic.
It's not on mic. It's on mic.
It's on mic, but it's off the current train that I was riding. For me, when you hand me a character background, you're handing me an expectation. That's how I feel typically as a creative. You're saying, Jared, here's my background. Do something with it. And it's like, motherfucker, I already got enough to do. How am I going to weasel your fight for the crown into my story? And that's where I kind of want to move this conversation into player motivation, because backgrounds are great. You are saying, Jared, for many people, they hand them the background story. I do have to tell my one background story.
Yes, you do.
I do, because
I promised this.
That where I'm going to tell like people that I was a punk teenager.
Yep.
When you hand them, you as a player, and that's why we hope that you share this podcast with your players. Players, please do not expect your storyteller to do anything with that, because if you want that story told, tell it. Don't expect someone else to write your story. You write it. Create a story that elaborates around it. Because the thing is, and don't elaborate around your player or your character, because we discussed that about 2 podcasts ago, why you don't have a central NPC. But if you're interested in telling that story of a rescue of a lost, potentially bad person, and the redemption story, cool. Create a real game around that story. Make your players the center stage and go for it. Go for it. Be the storyteller. So do not expect anything from that background story. Do not expect your GMs to read, digest, add your player background into their larger story, because it might not fit anywhere.
I have one caveat to that.
Fire away.
The caveat to that would be if you're doing a sandbox game.
Well, I would like to talk about motivations, because it's different from the background story of do something with this storyteller. Because if a background is built to create motivation in a sandbox game, you're not telling the storyteller do something with it. You're telling them, this is what I'm going to bring to your game.
Yeah, so if you're doing a revenge-based thing, I'm going to hunt this person.
You're not only saying I'm going to hunt this person, but I'm going to add this to your story. I'm going to push forward. I'm going to help. And this comes almost down to a player-storyteller collaboration rather than storyteller-storyteller. Because essentially the storyteller's objective in you creating that story is them just putting barricades in your way and making it longer than it is just like, oh, you find them in an elevator. But I'm going to tell the story about the other thing about background stories and why you shouldn't write a 33-page background story. So let me set the stage. It is Chicagoland area. It's a cold winter night. I am doing LARP. It's a combo LARP and vampire and werewolf LARP. Old World of Darkness. I'm like 16. Yeah, 16, maybe not even 16, 15, 16, 17.
Somewhere in high school.
Somewhere in high school. I'm a punk. Either way, somebody had written a 33-page background story. 33 freaking pages, single spaced, and like the GM of the game, the storyteller, stood up and announced it, and it was so huge and it was massive. And it was funny because he even announced, like, I am not reading this. But all the players like, wow, 33 pages. And in this person's story, they were like, I was once a powerful prince of my own city, and he laid out like this Billy Badass in history. Well, that night, I was with 2 other players, and we were essentially a group of teenage troublemakers who were playing werewolves, and so our werewolves were essentially teenage troublemakers. And we came across his said character with 33-page background story that he had just completed. He made a slight, and we promptly pulled his arms off and beat his character to death with those arms. Like literally did it slowly because we got more enjoyment out of the player starting crying. God, I was such a punk. I'm sorry.
Oh, no. I remember
this guy,
this now.
and he was like 30 at the time.
I wasn't at the LARP, but I remember the story.
He was like he was like 20, like almost 30, like going on 30, and he wept. Oh, dude, he cried. And he screamed out, "You can't do this to my character," and ran off. I feel bad now because like I was a punk. I was a jerk. He really worked hard.
By the way, LARPs are just not the greatest setting. I just want to point this out. Like,
you know what? It had its ups. Sometimes when you had a really good storyteller or a really good team, there was a time that our LARP was very good. I enjoyed it. But no, and I would say about 90% of the time it was not great.
The problem is that you're so far out of your normal gaming group. You're mixed with so many other players.
Yeah,
and there's just a lot of craziness that goes on with LARP. I mean, if you cozy up to the GMs, you get whatever the hell you want.
It like I said, it depends on your storyteller and it depends on the players at the game. And I mean, like I've heard of very successful LARPs. But I was kind of like, you know, you're relegated to the LARP that's geographically close to you. And I mean, like, I went to visit one LARP in Chicago, and it was very successful, very well organized. And it was good. I enjoyed that, but I wasn't driving to Chicago.
No, it's just geographically didn't make any sense for you.
Like, you had to park like 7 blocks away and walk. And if anyone lives in Chicago or they know Chicago, a block's like a freaking mile.
Again, we all have things that we regret, though,
yes.
as being younger storytellers.
So the thing about that background, I guess the story to that background is just because you create a background where your character is a Billy Badass does not mean the character really is a Billy Badass. And those characters are subject to character death, and your whole 33-page backstory, gone in a flash of an eye. Instead of writing your backstory where your character is a Billy Badass, play the backstory where your character becomes a Billy Badass. Play it. Make that story in game. Make the memories instead of you just typing on the computer. But now to switch topics, because I've told everyone what a terrible human being I was as a teenager. I have gotten better. Jesus. He's so cool. I'm sorry. Okay. All right, moving on to character motivations. Player backgrounds are great for motivations in sandbox games because what they are doing is essentially giving you as a player, again, this is useful for you, not for your storyteller, because they are saying, so what a sandbox game is, just to give a brief review, is more of a storyteller creates a city or takes a city, let's say Chicago, adds in NPCs that are related. So, you know, the vampire hierarchy, the dwarven underground, whatever they want to add. And essentially sets you free and says, go play in the garden that I have built. Typically, there is one large meta plot overall. So it might be that the elves are planning on invading the dwarven underground. Excuse me. And are slowly gaining intelligence, and it will be up to the players in the overall meta plot to stop said bad guys or elves from invading, or that a vampire plans on coming into the city and taking it over, and it will be up to the players to stop said vampire. So the overall, but that's a very thin plot. It's supposed to overlay the city while the players continually gather evidence with inside the city and engage in their own stories.
Again, listen to the episode on the sandbox games. I think people found that one very popular. That we cover how you do the through line with the sandbox game while your players are doing all sorts of other stuff.
Right. And so what that does with a backstory is, you know, my character, when you create your backstory, it should match what the story is going on. So for example, if you're like, I was king of Venice, Italy. Well, this game's set in Chicago, so I'm not sure how we're going to take your player motivation, your character motivation, and obtain that motivation from Chicago. So when you're creating that, be centric and commune with your storyteller, and storytellers enforce that if they're going to have their own motivations, that this is not going to turn into a jet-setting game. It is not going to turn into a Venice game. It is going to be Chicago-based until such and such time that we move it to Milwaukee. So character motivations are great because they can add that personal thing to the game. You know, in the end, my character is building up their riches so they can buy back a village from slavery, right? Their home village from slavery. And at the end of the story, or let's say a period of time, I finally have enough gold, right? Essentially, you have to work with your storyteller to say, I'm intending on going back to my village next week. And, you know, for example, this is a really good example, actually. And it's kind of funny because I was planning on alerting Aaron and Brian about this during game, because we're probably going to game after this. Not probably, we are.
The general rundown of our podcast is we podcast and then we do game.
And then we do game. So for my character right now, Rachel, she has her own sets of flaws. In whatever story we play next, whether it be Brian's story or Aaron's story, I'm going to look more into her anger and her rage issues because she has a short fuse. And I'm pre-warning my storyteller and my fellow players because now Brian, let's say Brian's going to be the player and Aaron's going to be the storyteller. Brian can say, okay, how does my character react to Rachel's rage? Aaron can say, okay, this will be an easy combat game. All I got to do is have somebody push her and she's going to flip out and start knocking people out. You know, so he doesn't have to focus so much on how am I going to start a fight. Aaron, when I talk about my character's rage issues, she gets upset because there's not enough ketchup. And that could literally turn into table flipping and the police getting called. So it's something in our last game with my character, I dived into her love. She's a human being. She wants love and contact. And, you know, it's kind of hard when you're a barbarian, pretty much. The next one I'm going into is anger. So what I'm doing is I'm collaborating with my storyteller and my fellow players, and that's what background and player motivation needs. And it's something that I lacked for years and years and years, was communicating with my players on what are your goals? Let me know when you want to engage on them, and we can talk together about how we're going to do this and create a story for the rest of the team. Because my character, Rachel, having her rage problems is going to create story for Brian. He's going to have a player who needs to react when she flips out. Does he react with his gun? How does he react to people getting angry? How does he? And it lets him dive in. So player motivation is great, but it's not done in a vacuum. So when that person has gathered up a gold to buy their home village, okay, Aaron, give me a home village.
Tune.
I think we used a tune, didn't we? I'm just messing with you. So I'm going to buy back all the slaves from a tune. I've gained that much money. And that's why we've been dungeon hopping. Because I want to buy back this. You as the storyteller need to say, guys, you're going with him, right? I mean, he's going to buy back his hometown. Don't you want to see the end of that? course, he's our friend. He's been through 3 dungeons with us. Of course, we're going to go with him to buy back his home village. Because
it was burned to the ground.
Boom. They get there, it's been burned to the freaking ground. Maybe they get there and the slave people are like, there is no amount of money that I will accept to buy all of my slaves. Well, now we got a fight on our hands. Now we got a story. You know, maybe the slaves, they get bought, but they don't go anywhere. Why? You know, and by alerting your storyteller ahead of time, by alerting your fellow players ahead of time of what I intend to do, you first alert your storytellers, then let the storyteller alert the other players. You're giving them time to react. You're giving them time, because if you get to that end of the last dungeon and it's, you know, Saturday night, Friday night, all right, cool. I'm going back to Attune and gonna go buy back my village from slavery and live happily ever after. See you around. You're giving me a week. You're giving me literally, 7 days. 5 of them, I have a job and a life and a wife, and maybe I even have kids that need to go to soccer practice. Oh my God.
How am I going to design a tune?
How am I going to, I need maps, and I need, as I think we talked about in our last podcast, hallways, rooms, entrances, and exits, shit.
Key NPCs, all sorts of stuff.
And you're not going to get a fulfilling story out of it. When you get to Attune, I might actually literally be like, yeah, they just say no. And okay, now just go into a combat. You're not going to get a satisfying end because you didn't give me enough time. And that's why player motivations have to be done in tandem with your storyteller. So storytellers, because, like I said, this is about leveling up not only storytellers, but players. Players have a stake in this too. They have some responsibility. If you're going to bring in motivation, you're going to bring in your own ideas, you're going to bring in your own stories. One, maybe you storytell that. Maybe you're the one who storytells that. Okay, you want to go back to Attune? It's great. How about you write a short story for it? Oh, I'm not an experienced storyteller. Come on. I'll help you through it. We'll plan it out. We'll do it in 6 months. So we've got, forever to write it. At the end of my 10th dungeon, that's when you'll have enough money. And that's when you're going to make the announcement. And we're going to set it up together. And then you're going to create the story. I'm going to get to play a little bit. Okay, I might play, I don't know, somebody pick up on the road. So we got to figure that out. What happens to your character so your character can't make the transaction? I don't know, maybe you got kidnapped by ninjas and the slave auction ends at midnight. I don't know, but I know it's always ninjas with me. I
love ninjas.
I love ninjas. They trained Batman. Bringing it back to Batman. So, then the player motivation becomes a cooperative story between player and storyteller. Maybe the player does say, okay, I want to remain as a player. I'm not comfortable storytelling yet. I don't want to storytell this. I really want to see what you do with it. I want to give you creative liberty. Okay, then I'm going to tell you, you're entering the queue of my timeline. All right? So right now I've got
There are no wagons heading to Attune. If you want to walk there, it's a long walk.
So I know in your character background, you said that it would take you 500,000 gold to buy the town back, or we'll say 5 million. And I know you got 5 million, but we're just going to agree, you and I, that it's 10 million. And I'm going to make sure you hit that 10 million after I tell my 10th dungeon, and then Attune, if I'm ready for it. And also, I'm going to give you the heads up before that, listen, I'm going to have to delay or I'm going to keep timeline. And it what this does, even though it sounds like a lot of work, like, oh man, I'd rather just take them to Attune, have them have the fight, and trust me, your player's not going to be satisfied with it, and neither are you. It's not going to work out. Unless you're like, no, my player's literally just going to be like, checkbox, more experience, loot, and I killed some things. Okay, then yeah, just take them to Attune and KYP people, KYP. It's all about doing your players.
Yes.
If you got a group that are like, aha, Attune, we're going to butcher some slavers. awesome. Go forth. Let them butcher slavers. But if you got a group that are like, no, this will be an emotional moment. I can't wait for this. Aaron, are you going to have some music cued? You going to have some sweet narrative?
Yeah, unless
you got to give me time.
Unless you are the god of improv, you are not going to be able to come up with something in a tune.
Yeah, Matt Mercer writes scripts and he gets paid to do it. I'm sorry, Matt Mercer. You're a great guy and I really appreciate what you're doing for our community. But at the same time, bro, you get paid. It's my jealousy. It's my jealousy. That's envy right there. That's one of the
it's envy. He's very good at what he does.
Bastard.
One more point that I want to bring up, and this is from me as a player perspective coming into it. When I first started, I hated doing character backgrounds.
Oh, I still like you've seen my character. They're a paragraph.
I hated doing character backgrounds. And most of the time, my decision on how the character was going to be or what the character was going to do and the motivations came through the lengthy process of me putting the dots on the piece of paper. Okay? That was how I figured out what type of person they were going to be. And even today, I still do some of that. I just now try to give Jared some nuggets and say, I'm not expecting you to do anything with them. But I'm like, and this has come more from working in the realm of our episodic game telling with the investigation series. And kind of collaborating without actually telling people our motivations and stories. I'm just trying to give you fuel to tell stories.
Yeah.
Okay. Which is, if you want to do something with it, cool. If not, have fun. But if you're going to claim it and say, I'm going to do something with it, which is what we basically were saying is I want to do something with that, then, make sure that you do eventually find the time to do something with it. If you're going to trade off storytelling with different people, don't say, I'm going to take this thing and do something with it and then never do something with it.
Yeah, because maybe one of the other storytellers can.
Because one of the other storytellers might see motivation in doing that, and you just don't want to hamstring anyone from taking somebody else's ideas.
I was writing yours. I had maps and everything.
I know you did. It was disappointing. It was just like, man, we're just not.
It took me forever to figure out the location, but like I found one and I was like, oh, this is gonna be freaking glorious.
But again, I'm going to sum it up. Cliff's notes for your GM. Again, it's food for thought if you give them the character back.
And if you're the player, please be polite and inform your storyteller. I don't expect you to do anything with this. But in case you are running dry on stories, here you go.
This is mostly for me, but here are the Cliff's notes in case you want to do something with some of this.
Yep.
It's there for you, okay? And then the rest of it is for me to understand how my character would emotionally react to different situations. I know how to better play my character because I wrote a little bit about the background. Not 22 pages, a little bit.
Hey, if you want to, if that's your hobby, I mean, some people's hobbies are writing short stories. You want to write 22 pages on your own backstory? Knock yourself out. Do not expect me to even pick up a pencil to look at it.
Make sure it levels up your player, though, and your character.
Yes.
Meaning that your character is a better character because you wrote the 22 pages.
Yes. I'm leaving it at that. I'm done. Well played, Aaron. Boom.
And there we go.
Level up your player.
Level up your player. So, anyways, if you like the podcast, if you hated this episode because you love character backgrounds for some reason, if you want to get back,
if you want to say you guys are jerks,
if you want to say we're jerks because we sort of are sometimes, follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/levelupyourgaming, or contact us at levelupyourgamingpodcast@gmail.com. We'll happily take all your comments on it. Maybe you're like, thank God, finally someone said it out loud.
Somebody said it out loud. That's the truth. It's like the hidden secret amongst the storytellers. Because I have talked to other storytellers. I have probably talked to, I don't know. I can at least recall there are 3 other storytellers that I know that were like, yeah, and Ken, I'm sorry, but they talked about your background and they're like, I never read it. And I was like, holy crap. It happens.
Yes.
Hopefully, when you reply back, you're like, yes, it's finally out in the open.
But anyways, this would probably be going to give to your players. Let them listen to it. Let them hear the pain from us, not from you. So you don't have to be the bad guy. We'll be the bad guys.
We'll be the bad guy.
Okay? We'll be the bad guys who says, we don't care about your character background story.
This is a subtle way of you telling them that I don't care about your background.
Yes. So again, subscribe, share with a friend, share with your gaming group, share with your mother, share with your father, share with your family, share with your friends, or post it on your chat channel at work if you're in IT or something like that, or have something like that.
Throw it up on Slack.
Throw it up on Slack, yeah.
Or if you're in project management, Monday.com. Hey, guys.
You can also find us on YouTube now if that's a preferred medium for other people that you know who listen to stuff. And we'll try to get the rest of the library up onto YouTube as well. But
smash that like button.
Smash that like button. So for Jared, I'm Aaron. Have a great week, guys.
Have a great week, everyone.